Want to build a house? Welcome to the podcast by Aurora Homes. I'm Scott Daly, and I'm here with my co-host, Keith Strom.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
And we are so glad to be back after a little bit of a hiatus. And, in fitting with 2020, so if you're listening to this podcast, this is the first time that you don't see a gap on the internet, but we haven't done a podcast since October of 2020, and as of this recording, it is 2021. And a couple of things have changed. So if you listen to the first 22 episodes, we're going to talk about the So You Want to Build a House podcast from Statera Homes. And then all of a sudden, now we're Aurora Homes. Well, how does that happen? And I'm wondering, Keith, where did we come up with this name Aurora?
Well, Aurora is an English word, which just makes it so much easier to type in and to remember.
Right.
Spell, if I tell you to spell Statera just off the top of your head, and you're not working for Statera, maybe you put an R and make it in, after the T there, you make it Statera, which is I think that's an ADD.
I think
drug.
That is a prescription drug. Yeah, so the straw that broke the camel's back is everyone called our company Statera.
Yes, and wrote checks.
To Statera, and our customers are like, I love my Statera home. And we're like, you just spent hundreds of thousands of dollars with us. when you build, it is a long relationship between us and the people that we build houses for because of the warranties. I mean, we can be involved in your lives. We have warranties that go a couple years past when you move in.
Right.
And so these are the people that we love. We think they're like family that love us, and they still can't say the name right.
That's right. Had to make it a little easier. Had to make it easier to remember.
Right. And so that's change number one. Change number two is the role of Jackie is now being played by Keith. So Keith is the new Jackie.
I'm the new Jackie.
Welcome, Keith.
I'm still Jackie. You could still call me Jackie if you want.
Right.
That's my new stage name.
Right.
Keith is my real name. Jackie's my stage name.
Jackie developed over the preceding few months a horrendous smoking habit, and her voice has changed dramatically.
That's right.
No, actually, Jackie moved on. We still love her and treat her like family, but she's no longer with Aurora Homes.
Moved on, meaning went to a new place of work.
Bigger, not better. She probably made the greatest mistake of her professional career, but we still we love her anyway.
Still love her.
The fun thing is about Keith, fun facts about Keith, you might actually meet Keith. So if you listen to the podcast and you come into the model on the right day at the right time, you might meet Keith.
When the sun is at its peak.
Right. Whereas Scott is not actually real. Scott is a deep fake, AI compilation of a number of different things, and I can never be accessed. I'm like, if you're old enough, you'd remember Max Headroom from the 80s, who just was this personality that existed digitally. There's no such thing as Scott Daly.
I love it.
But Keith is real. Keith is tangible, and you can see him behind the mask. Actually, you can't see him from behind the mask.
I don't wear a transparent mask.
Right.
But you can see my eyes.
Right. And they're beautiful. So, okay. So anyway, you certainly didn't turn on the podcast to hear about other. That's why we're now the Aurora Homes blog. That's why Jackie is now Keith. And man, we're going to talk a little about 2020 and just how that has really changed the world. And the reason why you can be listening to this years later, hopefully when life has returned to normal, is because it's kind of I think COVID was kind of a seminal event in life, meaning the world just kind of changed. I liken it to like high school graduation, right? So when you graduate high school, you go to this big ceremony,
right?
And it's in the field of your high school football stadium or wherever it is, and they call off your name, and you walk across stage, and you spend all this time thinking, oh my gosh, I have to do something fun across the stage, and there's 300 people thinking the exact same thing, which drives everyone in the audience crazy. And then you can figure out, how many kids the parents have, because when it's your first kid that graduates, it's a big deal, and you're waving, you're like, that's my baby. When it's your third kid, you're like, when do we eat?
Yeah, so over it by 20
so
or 30.
over. They're so boring. Anyway, and you can't say that to your kid, and the kid doesn't understand what it is. They're just worried about, am I going to get busted for whatever I put in masking tape on my hat, my cap? Anyway, it's a big thing. Like graduating high school is a big deal, and the funny thing is, like, your whole world actually starts to change when you graduate high school. But I remember waking up the day after I graduated high school, and I didn't really feel any different than the day before I graduated high school. Like, I was still awkward 18-year-old me, but something was really different. And over time, it just took a while for some of those differences to play out. But a lot had really changed. And so I bring all this up not just to take a stroll down memory lane, but also to think, I think the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, was one of those events. It changed everything, but we're still really trying to work through what some of those changes actually are.
Yeah.
We just don't necessarily get it.
It was like you always, you were seeing a lot in social media, the mad dash to 2021, right? Everybody was so excited for 2021 to start, and there's a 1-day turnover, and you're sitting here, and it's just, it's a continuation.
Right.
That's the sequel.
Oh, that's so depressing. That's like when they made Child's Play 2.
Oh man.
Did you ever watch Chucky?
I did, like, briefly, couple minutes here and there when we'd see it on the TV, but I too scared of that.
I just didn't understand how a doll could kill people. I mean, I never saw it, to be honest with you. But then ostensibly it was successful enough there's like 6 of them. There's like Bride of Chucky, Son of Chucky.
Oh man.
Up Chucky.
Oh man. We gotta have like a podcast reaction to the Chucky series one of these.
We're gonna just binge. If it ever snows, we're just gonna have a snow party at the model home, and
yeah, we'll get pizza from Chuck E. Cheese, and then we'll watch Chucky all weekend.
Right, all Chucky, all the time. These episodes are gonna get longer with the new Jackie.
I'm sorry, guys. Okay, I'm sorry.
But, so anyway, a lot has changed, and so what we want to do is just kind of run through how we think this influences home design, because this is really about houses, new construction, things like that. And I think the first thing is, COVID-19 has really changed the way people look at their house. Once upon a time, the house was, you ate there, you slept there, you watched some TV there, and a lot of the activity that people were into in their lives happened outside of the house.
100%. Yep.
And now all of a sudden, you got locked down or whatever, and we've adapted, and I don't think it goes all the way back. So, you're looking at your house right now, and you're looking at your house. Your house can be a school. It can be your office. It needs to be a movie theater. For some people, it's a church.
Yep.
For some people, it's a bar, a restaurant, a gym, a resort, a sports arena. So a house is performing all of these tasks that was never designed to do. The floor plans, even that builders are building now, most of them are based on, in my opinion, a life that just doesn't exist anymore. It's just nobody knows it. And so all of a sudden, the house and the layout really matters. And we talk to these people all the time, and they're just realizing that the house that they're in, or the homes that they're looking at, if they're looking to come down to the Delaware beaches, they just don't. They don't meet the needs that they have,
right?
Because they were just designed sort of for a different world.
Yeah, I mean, your house and the way it lives for you. That's one thing we like to say. How does your house live for you? It is. It's never been more important. Like Scott was saying. I mean, you got all these different things that you'd be doing outside of the house. In a group congregation settings. Movie theaters. Like, now you got movies coming out straight to Netflix, straight to Hulu, straight to Disney. You're not waiting for it to come out and then hitting it at that time. So you're watching all these movies from your couch. So you gotta make that house be as good as possible. Get that experience up.
Right, and some flexibility and all that. And so we're actually in the process of releasing a bunch of new floor plans that really kind of reflect this reality and give people the flexibility in the separate spaces and a lot of things that probably weren't considered with some of these older designs. And so that's really a big thing, is really what you're looking to do in the house is very different. And it's interesting. The old cliche in real estate is the three most important things about any piece of real estate are, location, location, and location. And honestly, I think that has really been a fundamental change too.
Yeah.
100,
yeah, absolutely.
Because it used to be, look, I want to be in an area that's walkable. I basically, people were like, man, I want to be in a big city.
Yeah. The most important thing about the house wasn't even the house itself. It was just, where is it? Where, how close is it to the other stuff around it?
Right.
And that has just changed so much.
Right.
So much in a year.
We're experiencing people now that are moving. So they've been told they can work remotely for the rest of their career.
Yeah.
And they live in a big metropolitan area. And a lot of the ones that surround Delaware tend to be very expensive, cost of living wise. Just the prices of housing is very high in Philadelphia and DC, New York, and the other costs of living, the high taxes, things like that. And now all of a sudden these people have been told, hey, you can keep your Philadelphia job. You just don't have to be in Philadelphia.
Right. It's kind of like like we don't have sales tax in Delaware. So we, people come to our outlet malls all the time.
Right.
And they load up on clothes or whatever they can find there because, hey, I'm not paying tax on, I don't know, $300 or $400 worth of clothes for the school year. So they come down and they load up. It's kind of like it's happening with housing.
Right. I mean, and then now they're sitting there thinking, I can go down to Delaware, the beach, be near the beach. I can spend $650,000 and get something that's gorgeous versus, if you're at $650,000 in Montgomery County, Maryland, you're in some, townhouse in Tacoma Park, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's super nice, but it's tiny. Right. And you're sitting in all this traffic to get anywhere, and, you're elbow to elbow with somebody at Whole Foods or whatever, and you're just like, man, I'm not down for this. And so all of a sudden we're like, wait, we can live at the beach, and it's different. And I have to be honest with you, the food options, they call it the coastal cuisine here is as good as any city.
100%.
Right. And and the other thing is outdoor recreation is really much easier here. The wife and I have a boat, and we were able to go out on the boat, and it's socially distanced, and it's safe, and it's outdoor, and it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. You got all sorts of, you got the parks. You can go down to the parks. It's tough to find stuff in the cities right now. I know a lot of people are cooped up. Schools aren't really running. I mean, you've got some school stuff going on. I mean, I know sports are kind of hit or miss, but it is definitely different than the city. That is absolutely true.
Right. So I think location still matters. I just think it is interesting how the script has kind of been flipped on what location is. Whereas, being in Manhattan, like, this is the best location in the world. And all of a sudden, in the course of about a month, in the spring of 2020, that went from being like the worst location ever.
Yeah.
And I mean, the cities are going to come back. Don't get me wrong. But if the jobs aren't going to come back, cities are they're going to come back like everything else. They're going to be different. Like, these gigantic office buildings are not going to be nearly as full because these companies are going to go to remote everything. And the cities are going to be a different world. And so we literally have people that are they're keeping their jobs. They're moving out here. They realize, the schools are good. The town is small. We have this cute little local paper that when your kid wins a little league game or something, they put your picture in the paper, and it's like, a little piece of Americana. But we also have incredible gourmet restaurants and a freaking ocean.
Yeah. That ancient body of water.
Right. And it tends to be a thing.
That thing.
And, it's kind of cold for a lot of the year, but it's not cold all of the year. So I think that's one of the location has really turned into something else. And it's not, I need to be close and I need to be in everything, but now it's more like I want to be in a place that enables my lifestyle, and my lifestyle is not necessarily as location dependent as it once was. So, that's a huge change. And I think the floor plans, so Keith, you talk to people like when they're coming in and they're talking about building a house and all that,
Yeah.
what are the things that they're talking about they need their house to do, and how are you
Right.
talking through people accommodating this in new home floor plans?
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing you're seeing right now is a home office. You're seeing that almost every house, everybody's got a need for a home office. It can be in various points of the house, but get some light in there. Have some windows. People are wanting some a spot for their spot for their desk, so their papers aren't flying around the house, and they've got a spot where they can work. Uh, you know, 5 to 7 days of the week.
Right.
So that's important. I mean, it's important. I mean, I think everybody's everybody's got a spot in their house where they've got a desk that they can put for a day, and kind of do some work here and there. But the difference between a day and 5 is big. I mean,
right.
having a good space for your desk and your paperwork is important. The other thing I'm seeing a lot is you're seeing a lot of desire for outdoor outdoor living at your house, because you're not, again, like, for a stretch there last year, the beaches were closed for a little while, and you couldn't go to the beach. And so definitely, you're seeing people are saying, hey, well, if this kind of thing happens again, or if I don't feel like going to the beach, I need to have a spot where I can enjoy some fresh air.
Sure. Yeah, it's almost like you realize that your world could get changed and you didn't have any control over it. And I think that's a lot of what's driving people to have their home have that flexibility. Like, hey, if I want to enjoy some outdoor time on a nice day, and I have a porch in my backyard that's screened, or I've got a big patio, or I've even got a pool, like, I know that's not going to get closed. I know, like you said, that movie's going to show up. I want to be able to have a great movie experience, but I need to have it somewhere that I know is always going to be open, and my living room never closes.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So I think that what you're saying is huge. And so the other big change, so the first one we talked about was the idea that of location. The second one is just what people needed to do or have their house do for them. And I think the third one is just kind of the features. All of a sudden, my kitchen is an issue. So, it used to be, man, my kitchen works. I cook a meal or two, and I've got, kids or grandkids or whatever, and the kitchen was functional. I never really paid attention to it. Well, then they locked us down.
Yeah.
And they locked me in my kitchen, and I had to stare at this stuff, and I hated it.
And then the drawer front that always kind of falls off a little bit when you open it, or the pantry never latches just right. There's that stuff you can deal with on a case by case basis, but when you're using it every day, you're like, oh my goodness, this is terrible.
And so, we've seen the way people look at homes is all of a sudden you go and you look at a house and you think, man, do I like this kitchen? Because look, I'm going to spend a lot more time in this space than I ever envisioned I would a year ago.
That's right. You better like it. You better like it.
Right. And so people are like, man, I want to make it nice. Right. So if you're not going to spend the dollars on the vacations, who wants to book a trip overseas or anything like that? So I'm going to spend the dollars to, those things are quality of life. That's really what that is. Like, I want to enjoy life. Well, now the quality of life all of a sudden is I'm going to spend it in my house.
That's right.
Because it's where I'm going to be. And it's where I know is a safe bet. So if I can create a house where I sit in my kitchen and I go, this is glorious, or I sit on my back porch or my back deck, or I have a home office. So I have, I can create a little bit of space between my work life and my home life, even though they're 5 feet apart. I have a place where, when the kids, if they have to stay home from school and go to school remotely, they can go to school remotely, I can work remotely, and we can still have a living space and not all want to kill each other.
Yeah. It's super important. I mean, I think that your people are just their kitchen spaces, their main spaces. Having more space for your family. You can get away with a smaller house if you've got all the sporting activities, all the the school functions and stuff, because nobody's in the house at the same time. But then now all of a sudden you put everybody in the same house at the same time, and all HE double hockey sticks breaks.
Right.
I don't know what I'm allowed to say. This is my first day. I don't want to
cuss
on the
job. He just said
it.
Gosh.
I don't want to cuss on the job.
Straight into the gutter. Yeah. So I think that in a way, I think one of the long-term effects of this is I think people are going to enjoy their houses more, because people are putting a lot more thought into the space that they occupy, and I think ultimately that's a good thing. We've always told people, look, you really should care about this stuff. Like, especially if you're looking at a new home, don't just walk into the model, see the furnishings, which you can't buy from the builder.
Right.
Have this emotional reaction, go, oh, honey, I feel like I'm in, a magazine, or I'm on Pinterest, and this is just heaven. And you're thinking, no, wait a minute. Like, what's this look like on a rainy Tuesday? Because, you're going to have a lot more rainy Tuesdays than you are Pinterest moments in life. And I think people are thinking through that and asking those questions. And it's great as a builder that we're able to accommodate that we're able to look and go, how do you need to live? Okay, how can we design a house around that, so that when you move in, you're going, great, this is an extension of my life. I don't have to bend my life around the walls that I built. I can design the walls to enable my life, right? So that's a thing. So listen, that's just a great little thing about how the industry and home building and thinking about building and just buying real estate in general has really changed. This is the So You Want to Build a House podcast. I'm Scott Daly.
And I'm Jackie/Keith.
And we hope you all have a great day and check out our next episode. Thanks.